Welcome to the HydroDynamic Podcast. We're the #1 podcast in the #2 business.
I'd like to welcome everyone to another edition of HydroDynamics, VCM Solutions' new venture into podcast. And today I'm happy to have Andrew Sharpe, who is Regional Specification Manager for the American Bath Group, which is a large company, and we represent one of the companies involved in their whole group of companies, and that's Designs Bathware. Welcome, Andrew. We're glad to have you.
Thank you for having me.
Welcome to Birmingham.
Thanks. Like you said, Andrew Sharpe, I'm the Regional Specification Manager for American Bath Group, so I focus on all of the commercial side of the products that we make. I deal with pretty much all of the companies on the commercial sides in the market segments of healthcare, senior living, student housing, multifamily, hospitality, and municipal. So all of those type of projects that we do, I'm involved with those as far as the product specification for those. What I try and do is work with the owner developer, the architect, the specifier, and get in on the front side to understand what the project's going to be, what their needs are, and then try to work with them to develop a bathing fixture specification package that's going to tie in with the overall design aesthetic, something that's going to make sure that it meets all of the necessary code requirements, and then something that's ultimately going to benefit not only the facility from a maintenance, durability, ease of use standpoint, something that if it's a hospital that the nurses and the caregivers can use easily, but ultimately something for the end user, whether they be a patient or a resident or a guest.
I know in our experience, we've found through the years that most of the architects that we call on, and the owners, we try to get in front of them and at the very beginning, as you mentioned, because so much of the bathing space today is critical, and you get into the dangers of bathing in a wet environment. Right. And we've done a lot of things through the years to develop systems that get the water off the floor and not into the bathing space. And this is especially in the healthcare industry and also in the student housing and multifamily. So as we move forward, these are the areas that we kind of want to touch on, that we've developed products that take care of all these issues.
We find that safety obviously is a very big concern in healthcare and in senior living, but it really is something that needs to be considered in any of the commercial segments, like student housing, like
right.
we had talked about this afternoon. Keeping the water inside the shower is critical in that it eliminates maintenance on the staff. You don't have to work. You don't have to do additional costs of putting a drain outside the shower. We do this by integral trench shower systems, as you're familiar with. Integral trench shower systems have a trench drain system with a grate covering that stretches the full width of the shower, keeps the water in by not allowing the water to flow outside. And again, when you're dealing with commercial products, you don't have, there's not a whole lot of slope on the floor. You have a maximum of 1/4 inch per foot. So gravity-fed systems work, but they just don't work that well. Integral trench really steps up the game and works a lot better to keep water where it needs to be.
I remember probably when both of us started in this, all we had was a drain in the center of these spaces.
That's right.
And it caused the contractor to have to slope 4 different directions.
Right.
And he had to do this himself. He had to use a mud system, and that was difficult for any craftsman to do this and do it correctly. So what the end result was, water would get out on the floor in the space in front of the shower, and it was dangerous. Our company, actually, Will Rice, developed this integral trench that ran totally, as you said, across the threshold of the entire unit, and you had what we call a zero threshold. So you think about it, if you're in a wheelchair and you can't have a actual bump to go or threshold to go over, you have to be zero transition, and that's code. And to develop something like that from scratch was a a great feat.
It was. Trench system initially that American Bath Group started was mainly for healthcare.
Right.
And then it evolved to come up with a slightly more economical system to get into senior living, because there just wasn't as much dollars to spend on product in senior living as there were in healthcare. But one of the big features of that integral trench system is that you don't have 4 angle slopes. Or you don't have slopes from the perimeter to the center. You only have from the back to the front. So when you're dealing with a 1/4 inch per foot from the back to the front, it's not a whole lot, but it's a very gentle, flat surface. So even with people with balance issues as they're walking, if they're slightly off balance and they've got to deal with their floor moving, floor having 4 different angles to it, it could throw their balance off and cause a fall, which again, you don't want. Also, like you mentioned, with installation, with a contractor doing it out of mud, he might be great on that first one. But when you've got a project that's got 400 rooms to it and he's got to do all 400, it's difficult to put the exact same slope 400 times exactly where it needs to be.
And he could have different craftsmen on this job. He could have one guy that no longer with him or went to another job site. And
right.
So you don't have a consistent situation in every room.
True.
And that's critical, because we'll get calls down through the job and saying, oh, water's going all over the floor on this one. You have a defective product. Well, no, not actually. We built the same product in this mold and it's always the same, but that's another issue.
It does. But again, one of the things that we do and we pride ourselves on doing is going to the job site before the product gets there, or at the time the product gets there, and making sure that we're walking all of the contractors that have any kind of impact to that product, the flooring people, the framing people, the drywall people, anybody who's going to be installing something around that shower, we get them all together and we walk them through what needs to happen so this will work as per manufacturer spec.
And one thing I think through the years we developed, because this is such an issue, that we do have great videos on our website of installation instructions. Now, getting them to look at that is another issue, or read instructions. As we all know, that's just we just throw those away. But there's no excuse at this point of all the educational pieces that we've developed through the years to show them how to install it correctly. Now, one thing let me bring up, we talked about the original contractor having to mud this in. Now we pre-sloped our floors already for them, and the unit sits directly on the floor.
The unit sits directly on the slab. The unit's pre-cut, so it is level. So that does require them to make sure that the slab is level, that they float it level. But it's a whole lot easier to float it level than it is to put 4 different slopes in it towards
Absolutely.
So if they float it out level, they can set this base on that slab, and that eliminates probably 80% of any of the questions, any of the problems that they may have.
As we've talked a lot about the trench, but let's talk about how the industry's evolved into the different surfaces or different materials we use. One of the beauties of the one-piece units is you have no grout, and grout is a place for mold, which we're all conscious of that. It's much easier to clean. It's much more durable. Through the years, we've had a gel coat product. Still, we use a gel coat type of product, but as we move forward in the commercial side of the business, we have numerous other materials that we do use that are easier to clean, easier to work with, and you might want to touch on some of those.
Again, like you mentioned, healthcare, where most of the ADA started, was an acrylic product. It was a vacuum formed acrylic, which worked at that time. The code was brand new, so people were still kind of feeling their way around it. But they found that vacuum forming acrylic could not pull the corners tight to give you those dimensions that you need for code compliance on the inside of those showers. What then was brought out was an applied acrylic. So instead of a vacuum formed acrylic sheet, they applied this liquid material to an existing mold where the tolerances were much tighter. And now we could get those tight corners. We could get that full 36-inch opening or 48 or 60-inch opening, plus those tight corners in the back, to be much more code compliant. Plus, it also opened up the top of the unit. So you now can instill that open air system, that clear or cleaner look, more bright. You don't have a ceiling that kind of blocks off the light and allows natural light to go inside the shower. So you did not have to add additional things like dome lights to put light in the shower. Obviously, it's a whole lot easier to take a shower when you can see everything.
And as we evolved from that, the solid surface spray-on type product that we developed,
Right.
that has been very successful through the years, and everyone basically knows the name Corian, but obviously solid surfaces is more than that. It's not, that's just the manufacturer. So we did develop a spray-on solid surface material to put on our units.
Right. Solid surface is pretty much a go-to for a lot of designers. They like that finish mainly because it pushes the envelope further than white bone biscuit. So with the solid surface colors now, you can get granite looks. You can get different blends of colors that, again, move that image further from that institutional feel that you get, or the stigma of institutional feel that you get with a lot of commercial product. So the applied acrylic and the applied solid surface give you all the benefits that you initially had with acrylic, with the very, very low porous, that glossy finish. But now you've got granite colors and a lot of different color schemes, again, to push you further past that institutional look. So you can get a product now that is fully compliant, that it meets all of the codes and really doesn't look like they used to.
Yeah, we so much think about that institutional look, and that was one reason people didn't like the one-piece showers, is because, oh, that looks like a mobile home or something. And today, I mean, it's actually so many more advantages to a tile shower because of the grout.
Well, you've got so many more design options. So with an integral trench shower and coupled with a solid surface finish, plus the granite looks, plus the different patterns that you can get on those products nowadays, you can go smooth wall or various types of tile look finishes. You've got, I mean, from a design standpoint, you can go just about anywhere.
Absolutely. It's so we've talked a lot about bathing safety, which is obviously a very important part. Also, the finishes. The design community has so many options for colors. What else could we lean on here?
Well, another feature of the commercial product, the pre-built commercial product, is the fact that it has the reinforcement already built into it, so that the contractor doesn't have to put additional blocking in the wall. That's additional cost, labor. The products that we manufacture come with reinforcement. They come with the bars already installed. They come with a variety of different color and shape bars as well. So we have other options, again, that they can choose from to dress up their shower and, again, move it away from that institutional look. But that feature of having the reinforcement built in, we've done products for individuals of size and bariatric facilities where they wanted 1,000-pound load capacity on their bars, on their seats. We've been able to provide that in a freestanding unit that they can install and not really have to do anything else to the rough-in into the framing, and get everything in one piece and then install it.
As we look at other areas of the market, student housing is a huge part of the business we do. From a local standpoint, we've done major projects at Alabama, at UAB here in Birmingham. We've just finished up a nice renovation job at Auburn, Troy University, University of South Alabama. I can just go on and on and on, that we are basically the standard of design. We're so much in front of the codes required. At UAB, we ran into a situation where they started enforcing a code called ANSI B, which is something nobody really heard of. And Comfort Design stepped up and created a unit that would meet that specification. And it got the architects out of a huge issue. And we went down and sold University of Alabama, Birmingham on the fact that there is going to be an additional cost because we're going to have to build this mold from scratch to meet this new standard that was being enforced by the local code officials. This just, to me, shows what Comfort Designs can do. We're just wide open as far as if you're in trouble, we can get you out of trouble.
Right. 5 years ago, we really, the ANSI codes were out there, the A's and the B codes were out there, but we really didn't see that much impact of those codes until fairly recently, within the past, say, 3 years. And we have introduced a large number of new product that meet those ANSI A and ANSI B codes, so that now the contractors have a choice of a variety of different products to look at, to consider on these type of projects that, again, check off all those code boxes.
And this is how we hopefully, with VCM's new podcast initiative, we talk about these things because they're important. And we talk to the design community about it in the front, and we take care of so many problems down the road. Right. And this new standard that it's our job is as a value add to the plumbing solution guy, is to make sure the architects know these new codes and are brought up to these new codes and are aware of them, where when they're designing, they design it correctly in the front, because obviously if they design it incorrectly, a change order is coming down the pike.
There's all kinds of ways that you as a company and we as a company have tried to address those kind of issues. One of them is the CEU courses that we do. We go to architects, we go to mechanical engineers, we go to design firms, interior design firms, and we have these CEUs where we walk them through these type of products. Right. We go over codes, we go over product, we go over trends. And it really is interesting because we get to not only learn from these agencies, from these designers who are actually doing the work, but we get to understand what they do, and then we get to share information with them that we've learned on these other calls. So it's a great system. It's a great process that we get to do and enjoy. And I love doing these meetings. I really enjoy doing them because it's fun, and every one of them is different. But again, getting out in front of them, walking through the codes, discussing the codes, having the people there in the meeting that understand them possibly better than we do, that can enlighten me, me being able to share information with them. It's a godsend. It's great.
And, actually, we're just a small part of this big building, and we try to understand that. But the bathing area is something everybody goes into every day, and it's people kind of just take it for granted, and they don't think about all these issues that can come up, especially when you're dealing in the commercial world and the liability issues that water on a floor presents itself.
With those job site meetings, I've probably been on 30 or so in the past couple of years. There's only been one that I've been on that they had everything lined up perfectly.
Yeah, right.
And we caught on every single one of them something that was going to be very ugly and expensive to fix after the fact, because it was going to be done necessarily incorrectly, but it was just something that they felt made sense to them to do when it was going to run counter and cause a problem later on down the line that they didn't necessarily know about.
Right. One other additional benefit that VCM and obviously Comfort Designs offers the design community is the CEUs, or the continuing education hours that we can get the design community through our AIA approved lunch and learns. And we take pride in, and we try to develop these to as many or offer this to as many architects as we can. And just today we had one, and it was very successful. We get a lot of, they get the lunch, and then they also get the CEU points. So that's, win-win for them, and it's win-win for us because we get to expose them to these issues we've been talking about. And we try to do these as often as possible. If you go to the VCM's new website, vcm.org, we have a CEU window on our website that you can go and see the different manufacturers that offer these CEUs to whomever. Either they want to do it online, we can do it virtually, or we can come to them and do it in person.
Right.
Well, thanks again for everybody to listening to HydroDynamics. Thank you for coming.
Thanks for having me.
It was
Anytime.
It was great experience to have you in Alabama again. He grew up over in Vestavia where I did, so we had something in common, but he's now in Louisiana, and he's a Tiger, but not an Auburn Tiger. See y'all later.